Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. All right. I hope the screen is visible to everyone, the board, or we can say the round board. All right. Sedition. Sedition is deshtro. All right. When you conspire you against your own country, that is known as sedition. All right. So to prevent sedition in our country, deshtro ko rokne ke liye, there is a law, and that is known as the sedition law. I hope I am visible. All right. Okay. Chaliye. So we'll begin our class and we are going to discuss about, as I promised you in the previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we talked about that we'll be discussing about the status of health in India, and let's begin the discussion. All right. So COVID-19 resulting into, we are going to talk about, Swati, we are going to talk about the Supreme Court on oxygen supply, reprimanding of the central government, and everything we are going to talk. All right, need not worry right now. Let us first start with the healthcare infrastructure in our country. Then we'll look into certain dimensions associated to it. Guys, please give me a minute. Yeah. Okay. So let's begin our class for today. So we have to discuss about the health infrastructure in our country. Yes, Muskan, wait for some time. All right, wait for some time. We'll cover all those topics. All right, we have to be a bit patient over here. So we'll be talking about the healthcare infrastructure of our country, the challenges that are faced by the healthcare, considering the contemporary COVID-19 situation. We will then cover about the health and the budget 2021-2022 in this lecture. We'll cover the National Health Policy 2017, and we'll also look into the LMO, that is liquid medical oxygen, and finally some other indices that are left. These are the agenda for today. Then if something remains left over today, we'll cover it in the next session. And next session, we are going to talk about the Maratha reservation. All right. Yes, Maratha quota and all those remaining topics will be taken up the next class. All right. So let's begin today's class by looking at the health infrastructure. All right. So when we talk about the health infrastructure in our country, so let us look at the structure of the healthcare system in India. Structure of healthcare system in India. All right, structure of healthcare system in India. If you look at the structure of the healthcare system in India, healthcare is taken control by both the public as well as the private sector. So you can say public healthcare. The public healthcare is taken care by the government. And then there are the private healthcare, which are taken care by the non-governmental entities. If you look at the public healthcare, there are three different segments of healthcare provision in India with respect to the public healthcare. The first one is the Ministry of Health. The first one is Ministry of Health. Second is the Ministry of Defense. Ministry of Defense. Then third is the railways. All right, or the Railway Ministry. They provide healthcare. So like, for example, the Ministry of Defense will take care of the healthcare needs of the defense personnel. The Railway Ministry takes the healthcare needs of the employees and the people related to railways. And for all other sections, there is the Ministry of Health. And this Ministry of Health operates at two levels. First, the union government, or you can say, let's talk about first the state governments. And second is the union government. So health, though, okay, can you tell me health is a state subject or is it a concurrent subject or union subject? Very good. Health is a sixth subject in the state list. So state governments, they are having the primary burden of giving public health care. However, the central government has also resulted into establishment of certain healthcare provision for its for general public also, as well as for, you can say, the employees of the union government as well. So if you look at the state government, while providing the healthcare, the state government provide healthcare in rural areas as well as in urban areas. If you look at the healthcare infrastructure in the rural areas, it consists of CHC, that is community health centers. Community health centers. All right. Then there are PHC, public healthcare centers. Then there are some sub-centers, and lastly, ASHA. There are sub-centers and ASHA workers. ASHA stands for Accredited Social Health Activist. Accredited Social Health Activists. This is ASHA. All right. So there is CHC, PHC, sub-centers, and ASHA. They are taken care by the state government, and that is how the state government is providing the healthcare in the rural sector. In urban areas, you can see that the governments provide various healthcare facilities, such as there is super specialty or referral hospitals. You can call them as super specialty or referral hospitals. Then there are special disease hospitals created in urban areas. Special disease hospitals. All right. Then there are district hospitals. Jila Swasth Kendra, district hospitals. Then there are government medical colleges. Government medical colleges are there. And finally, there are the taluk hospitals. There are taluk hospitals. Tehsil, taluk, whatever you want to call it. There are taluk hospitals. This is a brief one-sided view right now. We have not covered the private healthcare as of now. I'm just giving you once again a complete picture. If you talk about the structure of healthcare in India, it is provided by both the government as well as the private players. If you look at the government healthcare, it is provided at three different ministries. Ministry of Defense provided to their own officials, railways to their own officials, and then for the general public and other government services, there is this Ministry of Health. Now, Ministry of Health has provided different medical institutions either by the state government or by the union government. The general need of the people, the general need of the public is mostly taken care by the state provided healthcare, which comprises of the community health centers, the primary health centers, the sub-centers, and the ASHA activists in the rural areas under the state government, then super specialty or referral hospitals, special disease hospitals, district hospitals, government medical colleges, and taluk hospitals by the state government in the urban areas. If there is a lack of specialty in rural areas, then these community health centers can refer the patients from the rural areas into the district. So this is how the state government is taken care of. Tehsil, We are at the tehsil level. Aditya, I think that it is the glitch at your end. I think it is a glitch at your end. All right. So this is how integrated healthcare is provided by the state government. Then if we talk about the central government has created certain healthcare facilities for its employees. All right, so these are the employee state insurance, dispensaries and hospitals. All right, these are known as employee state insurance, dispensaries and hospitals. All right, dispensaries and hospitals. These are under the union government. Then there are the central government health schemes. All right, union government schemes related to healthcare. Then the union government also results into establishment of certain government colleges. All right, autonomous institutions. Certain tertiary hospitals are created. Tertiary hospitals, again, super specialty hospitals. All right, tertiary hospitals are there. And lastly, Ayush is promoted by the union government. Ayush stands for Ayurveda, for Unani. No, you say Unani hoga, then it is Yog, Siddha, and homeopathy. Homeopathy. These are the alternate medical systems, alternate medicine systems. And you should note for your prelims point. Priyanka, it is uploaded on YouTube. All right, every Saturday 12 p.m. you can come live on YouTube as well. It is an alternative system of medicine. All right, like yoga, Ayurveda, they are different from allopathy. Homeopathy is different from Ayurveda, yoga, and allopathy. Similarly, there is another medicine system that is known as Siddha. All right, Manisha, someday we can exclusively cover the alternate medicine system, but today we are not going into that detail. So these are the alternate medicine systems. And for your prelims point of view, you should make this a point towards remembering that the alternate medicine systems, they are not under the union government, they are taken care by the central government. So the union government, it supplement the state government in terms of healthcare provision. All right, so it's not you cannot say they are two distinct sectors, that those who are taking care, those who are taking healthcare in public sector are not allowed to, in state government are not allowed to take healthcare in central government system. It is not. So central government is supplementing the efforts of the state. Tertiary hospitals are the hospitals. Tertiary hospitals are the hospitals that are specialized. All right, super specialty hospitals, where you cannot directly approach with respect to your healthcare condition. You must be referred for specialized treatments. Those are tertiary hospitals. All right. So this is the Ministry of Health, both at the state government and union government, taking care of healthcare in India. Is this section clear to everyone? Is Ministry of Health section clear to everyone? All right. Now, if you look at the Ministry of Defense, similarly, Ministry of Defense has also created certain dispensaries for the armed personnel. They have created the base hospitals. They also have the specialty hospitals. They have Army Medical College and hospitals. So these are the infrastructure that take care of the medical needs of the defense personnel. Then Ministry of Railways, even they have their own dispensaries and hospitals. So this brings us to having a complete acquaintance with the public healthcare structure of our country. Now, if we look at the private healthcare, all right, so let's come back to the next page. So if we look at the private healthcare system, in the private healthcare system, there are profit-making organization, जिनको हम बोलते हैं for-profit organization. That is, they have established their hospitals for making profit. Hospitals as a business model. For-profit organizations set up their own hospitals, and then there are certain not-for-profit or you can say non-profit organizations. Non-profit organizations. All right, they provide the healthcare in the private sector. If you look at the non-profit organizations, it basically consists of the charitable trust, dispensaries, and hospitals, which may be religious as well as non-religious. All right, so you can call it as charitable trust hospitals. Charitable trust hospitals. If you are in Chandigarh, you must have gone across various religious places, and they provide you very inexpensive, very affordable physiotherapy. Sometimes they even provide you medical consultations. Yes, gurdwaras are there, temples are there. All right, so they are the charitable hospitals. They may be religious as well as non-religious. So they are non-profit organizations. Non-profit organization means they just provide you the service to the point that they charge you the fees only for sustenance. All right, whatever expenditure they are making, they are just trying to recur that expenditure from you, because it is non-profit organization. Whereas if you look at the other hospital chains like the Apollos, like Fortis, like Max, they are the profit-making organizations. They provide you quality healthcare, but then they charge you equivalently to make the profit. All right, so for them, provision of healthcare is a business. Getting my point? Yes, NGOs can also provide non-profit healthcare. Yes, they do provide. All right, many NGOs, they go for running of healthcare clinics, hospitals, as well as dispensaries. So NGOs are also part of the non-profit organization. All right. See, Aman, you can consider them to be part of a larger society called civil society. All right. An NGO, non-governmental organization, it is also a non-profit organization if its motive is not to earn profit and do social service. All right. Okay, then if you look at the for-profit hospitals, they consist of the private clinics. They consist of private clinics. They consist of the specialty and super specialty hospitals. All right. Like, for example, some hospitals, they are well known only to go only for cancer treatment, oncological treatment. All right. Then there are nursing homes. And there are many big hospitals which are multi-specialty hospitals. All right, like for example, Sir Gangaram Hospital of Delhi. All right, so this is the private sector providing healthcare in India. So one thing that we can make out from this elaborate structure of healthcare in India, that healthcare in India comes in public-private partnership. Right now, okay, let's not call it PPP right now. Let's call it public and private. Two sectors are involved, or you can say it's a mixed format of providing. All right, like for example, there is mixed economy in India. There is mixed healthcare system. All right, so there's a mixed format of service provision in healthcare in India. I hope it is clear till this point to everyone, the structure that we have discussed. Chaliye. So what is the take home point from this discussion so far? Majority of the healthcare in India is taken care by the state governments. All right. The state governments, they have the most elaborative structure of providing healthcare facilities, and the rural areas, they are exclusively the responsibility of the state governments, because they have the private healthcare centers, they have community healthcare centers, then they have sub-centers and ASHA workers, which are playing some significant role in improving the healthcare in rural areas. All right. Then if it comes to the urban area, then yes, it is mix of state governments, it is mix of central government, it is mix of the private sector as well. But one thing very important to understand, the alternate medicine system that we generally call as Ayush, that consists of Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddh, and homeopathy. These are the sectors which are exclusively taken care by the union government. All right, so let's go ahead now. After looking at the structure of our healthcare system, the next question that comes to our mind is, what are the challenges that we are facing? And these challenges, it's not that today COVID-19 has only crumbled the healthcare in India. Only thing is that Cherish, see, mixed format I have already given. So mixed format basically means that there is government providing healthcare services and private sector providing healthcare services. Neither we have left the healthcare exclusively to the private players, nor we have exclusively taken control of healthcare by the government. This system is basically known as the mixed format of healthcare provisioning in India. All right. Before we come to the challenges, one of the weakness of our healthcare system is that the partnership is missing. The partnership is missing. That is a big problem. All right. It is missing as of now. All right. So we'll talk that thing in the challenges. All right. So let's come to the challenges that our healthcare system is facing. So right now you must be reading a lot of newspaper articles that tell that India's healthcare system has crumbled under the pressure of crumbled under the COVID-19 second wave. It was not that our healthcare system was very robust before coming of this wave. All right, we somehow managed to tolerate the first COVID wave because the cases were limited under 1 lakh. And that was also for few days. Yes, it was about 80,000-90,000. But this time the cases are fourfold, and these are documented cases. And my dear friends, the world is accusing us of underreporting. There may be lie in one report, there may be lie in two reports, but that if hundreds of reports are reporting that India is witnessing underreporting of the case, then I think that situation is somewhere really difficult. However, let's not go into that political dimension or debate right now. Let us take what the government is giving us the figure. They are the genuine figures. Though we at the core of our heart know that somewhere there is some kind of underreporting. Certainly, the government also has certain limitations. Many of the cases are not coming to the government. All right, so let's not blame the government for that. So let's take this reality that we are experiencing underreporting of the cases. So if we are getting 4 lakh cases on an average, the real count can be just double of it. If we are experiencing 4,000 deaths in a day, it can be as high as 8 to 10,000 also. There will not be any surprise if the real figures are somewhere close to this. So the second wave, which is almost 4 times, in theory, at least 4 times more severe than the first wave, that simply means that our healthcare system, which was vulnerable to any kind of pandemic, it has been exposed with certain challenges. And these challenges existed even before striking of the COVID. And therefore, let's account what are the different challenges that we are facing. The first and the biggest challenge, which every one of us know, is the population pressure. All right. So first challenge is the population. Population is a direct impact, or population has a direct impact on our healthcare system. We are a country of 1.36 billion people. And 1.36 billion people, our healthcare is incapable. All right, we can use this word. Our healthcare is significantly incapable to provide the quality healthcare system, to provide quality health. It is missing. All right, it is incapable. The population exerts tremendous amount of pressure upon healthcare system, and therefore the first challenge that is faced by the healthcare system in India is population with 1.36 billion individuals relying upon the different healthcare facilities across the country. The second important challenge that is faced by the healthcare in India, we are coming to it. All right, Neti. All right, things will set in place one after other. Second is the poor infrastructure. Poor infrastructure. If we talk about the healthcare infrastructure, the quality of the healthcare infrastructure is very poor. Our healthcare system is underfinanced. Our healthcare system is underfinanced. Because our healthcare system do not get adequate finance facilities, our healthcare. See, Rahul, it can be both ways. It can be both ways. The huge population can exert tremendous pressure upon the public healthcare as well, private healthcare as well. All right, so it's not that population is only for the public healthcare. All right, so let's come to the next point, that is poor infrastructure. Our healthcare system is underfinanced. We will discuss about the finances with our healthcare system in the following and the points to come. But right now we can understand that there is shortage of funds available with the hospitals, be it the government hospitals, even be it the private hospitals. So because of the underfinanced structure of our healthcare system, the state of art facilities, they are limited. The best facilities are highly limited. Like, for example, few days back, I was just glancing through the local newspaper, the Dainik Bhaskar newspaper, and it was reported that in Punjab, 17 out of 22 districts, they do not have a ventilator bed. All right, they do not have a ventilator bed. This is a really sorry state of affairs. They cannot afford, all right, they are so much resource crunch that these hospitals cannot afford to buy a ventilator bed, and they are catering to the second COVID wave. So the fact speaks for itself. Getting my point? So because of underfinance, our healthcare cannot afford to buy the state of the art facilities. State of the art facilities means the most sophisticated and advanced technologies. All right. All right, Amandeep, state of the art technologies means the most advanced or sophisticated facilities. Then if you look at our healthcare infrastructure, there is shortage of staff. There is shortage of staff. See, I'm giving you the statistics for a general non-COVID scenario. If you look at the general non-COVID scenario, yes, Hitkanshi, accept it. Accept it. We are coming to this challenge of corruption towards the very end. In fact, whatever we are going to discuss, I'm going to show you that we are providing tremendous amount of money as well. Yes, compared to other countries, we are providing less finances, but this finances is getting corrupted. And because of the rampant corruption at the government level, things are really in a very sorry state of affairs. And because you can say that in India, there is no fiscal autonomy completely given to the states. The states are relying upon the revenue from the union through the finance commission distribution. So the money that they get is really is really in a very limited amount. They are given this money, not only in healthcare, but in all other subjects that are under the state list. The states are not performing better because the states do not have the complete fiscal autonomy. Therefore, the states, they heavily depend upon the union grants that they come on the recommendation of the finance commission. All right, so Hitkanshi, your point is accepted and taken that the state subjects, over there, the services quality is really very poor, certainly because of the states, they are getting less share what they should actually get. All right, so let's come back to the shortage of staff. Yes, Rakshanda, accepted. All right. Okay. Take it. So let's look at the shortage of the staff. If we look at the shortage of the staff, the doctor-patient ratio in India, all right, the doctor-patient ratio, it's one doctor catering to 1,700 patients. Somewhere you are going to find it one doctor catering to 1,500 patients. Somewhere you are going to find it one doctor catering to 1,600 patients. This figure is not important. If you give it, all right, it will be acceptable if you maintain this range. So one doctor for 1,700 people against a recommendation of one doctor per 1,000 people. So we are severely understaffed. We have one doctor catering to 1,700 people in our country, as against the recommendation of one doctor per 1,000 as per World Health Organization recommendation. And this is what I'm talking about, non-COVID scenario. In case of the COVID scenario, you can consider it to be exponentially rising. Because of the COVID-19, the senior doctors, they have pulled themselves out. All right, they are not discharging their duties as they were doing in the non-COVID period. So young doctors, they are limited in number. So this number can go as high as one doctor per 1,000 people and even higher. All right, so this is really very sorry state of affairs. Our healthcare system is highly understaffed. Doctor-patient ratio is abysmally low. If you look at even the nurse-patient ratio, all right, nurse-patient ratio, the nurse-patient ratio is also not very good. 2.5 nurses, sorry, 1.5 nurses. 1.5 nurses catering to the 1,000 people. Yes, it is better than doctor, but certainly it is poor as per World Health Organization recommendation. Yes, Priyanka, that will be added. All right, do remind me if I skip this point. All right, so we are right now focusing only upon the infrastructure. This brain drain will be coming up next. All right, so there's shortage of staff. The doctor-patient ratio is abysmally low at one doctor catering to 1,700 people in non-COVID scenario, which can be as high as one doctor catering to 5,000 people in COVID scenario or the pandemic scenario. The nurse-patient ratio is also very low as compared to what the World Health Organization recommends. The World Health Organization recommend at least 5 nurses per 1,000 people. All right. See, health infra. This topic is relevant to your general studies paper 1, the general studies paper 2, as well as general studies paper 3. Poor healthcare has a direct impact upon social justice. So GS paper 2 is there. All right, health as a part of society is GS paper 1, and the expenditure and other economic segment of health, it is GS paper 3. All right, and in sociology, otherwise, it is all completely imbibed in it. Lack of spending on research and development. Yes, we are coming to it. All right, now this is general picture that I gave you about the understaffing. If you go to the rural areas, the situation is even more critical. In rural areas, the situation is critical. It has been reported that in rural area, in the community health centers, 81% of, all right, 81% of the specialists, they are missing. 81% of specialists are missing from the community health centers, making the rural people look towards the urban areas for accessing the healthcare. So 81% specialists, they are not recruited at the community health center level. Then if you look at the number of beds, out of every 100 beds in India, there are just 37 beds. They are with the government. That is, the government hospitals, they have the less number of beds availability as compared to the private sector. Yes, Mrinal, you can say that. All right. So in the rural areas, missing 81% of the specialists are missing. If you look at the number of beds that are required in India, the public health sector, the government health center has only 37% of the total percent of the beds that are available in India. There's a data that has been given by Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. OECD has given a very important data that you can remember. This is a data of 2017, and they said that in India, there are 0.53 beds per 1,000 people. In India, there is just 0.53 beds. That is, 1,000 people don't have even one bed to share among themselves. Getting my point? This is the level. This is the abysmal level of healthcare in India. In fact, OECD has remarked that India's healthcare, all right, India's healthcare is the second lowest in ranking in South Asian region. If you look at the South Asian region, India's healthcare is second lowest in its neighborhood, according to OECD. Even if you look at Bangladesh, all right, even if you look at Bangladesh, Bangladesh has better number of beds compared to India. They have 0.87 beds per 1,000 people. Even if you look at the other developing countries, let's go to Chile in South America. All right, the South America in Chile, there are 2.11 beds per 1,000 people. It is 1.38 in Mexico. All right, these are the countries that have economic development status almost equal to India, and they are having much better condition than what India has. If you look at China, China has 4.34 beds available per 1,000 people. And despite that, they are close to 1.4 billion population. They're close to 1.4 billion population. So India has been performing utterly poor in terms of availability of beds to its people. And these are general beds I'm talking about. If you talk about, all right, if you come and talk about, you can say oxygen beds, they are almost zero. Per 1,000 people, there is almost zero bed available. And this is the reason that in this pandemic, there is so much of hue and cry. And this has exposed the poor state of infrastructure in our country. Is it clear? Now, as Priyanka said, the third challenge is brain drain. The third challenge is brain drain. The brain drain occurs because the doctors, they are highly underpaid. They are highly underpaid. And therefore, many of the qualified people, in pursuit of better standards of living, in pursuit of better income, they leave India despite that they are a potential human capital of the country. So there's a big problem of brain drain in the healthcare system in India. As someone pointed out in the chat box sometime back, that there are quality machines available in India, but there are no people available to even run those quality machines. So yes, brain drain is a big problem. All right. Then next important challenge, and that is the government spending. So you can say low government spending. The government is not, or government has taken the healthcare system taken for granted. All right. So low government spending shows the taken for granted attitude. Taken for granted attitude of the government towards the healthcare. And this you can see from the fact that of the total expenditure that we do, all right, of the total expenditure of the government, just 3.6% goes to healthcare. The healthcare expenditure of the government, the healthcare expenditure of the government is 3.6% of total public expenditure. Of total public expenditure. And if we talk about the healthcare expenditure of the government as part of the GDP, it is 1.2% of GDP. Of the total GDP, we are just spending, or the government is just spending 1.2% into the healthcare. If so less is the spending, how could you can expect the doctors to be heavily paid? How can you can expect the machines to be state-of-the-art machines? How can you expect that there will be specialists in the community health centers? How you can expect that there will be beds in the hospital? There will be proper oxygen supply. Getting my point? And under the National Health Policy 2017, we are targeting it to make just 2.5%. हमारा टारगेट ही गरीबों वाला है, तो हमारी हेल्थ केयर कहाँ अच्छी होगी? टारगेट है हमारा 2.5%. हमारा टारगेट है 2.5%. अब मैं आपको असलियत के साथ रूबरू करवाता हूँ. वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कहता है, वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सेज दैट द पब्लिक एक्सपेंडिचर into healthcare must be at least 5% of GDP. We are targeting 50% of what is recommended by World Health Organization. This shows that the healthcare in India has been taken for granted to a great extent. All governments put together, we are just spending 1.2% of the GDP on the healthcare sector. Is it clear? And we are targeting it to make 2.5% from the present 1.2%. The developing, or you can say comparatively, the poorer countries like Vietnam spend 10% of their GDP on health. And this is the reason that they have been able to tackle the problem of not just COVID-19, but also SARS and MERS. Thank you, Snigdha. It's a fantastic point, and I would like to share it with everybody. All right, this is a case in point which you can use in the exam. All right, hold on. All right, so in your chat box, you can see that the Vietnam, it spent 10% of its GDP. It's a comparatively very small economic size than India, but then it's also economically comparatively backward than India. Vietnam spends 10% of its GDP. All right, let me compare all other countries as well. So as Sundar has given the point of Vietnam, so Vietnam goes for spending 10% of GDP. And this is the reason that Vietnam has been able to protect itself from not just COVID, but SARS, MERS, all right, and COVID-19. So the countries that have remained prepared, they have become example. And the countries which have not remained prepared, even they have become examples. So India today is an example, but in the second category. All right. And many politicians, they claim we are the pharmacy to the world. Indeed, we are the sink of the pharmacy in the world. We are now begging for even the liquid medical oxygen. Despite we are self-sufficient. All right. हम आएंगे LMO पे बात करने आएंगे. So Vietnam spent 10% of its GDP. And therefore, they have been able to tackle other infectious disease. All right. Yes, Aditya, data absency. Perfect. Accept it. All right. Data suppressing the true data absency, inflated, wrong, manipulated data. When we'll be discussing the budget, I will tell you how government is manipulating its expenditure on healthcare. Just wait for some time. All right. So the World Health Organization recommends that a country should spend at least 5% of its GDP on its healthcare. India is spending just 1.2%. The world's best healthcare infrastructure is that of Canada. Canada spends 8% of its GDP on healthcare system, making its healthcare system one of the best in the world. If you look at Australia, Australia spends somewhere around 6.3% of its GDP. And Australia also has the 8th best healthcare in the world. All right, Canada is the best. So those countries who go for spending in their healthcare returns by saving the life of the innocent people. Not only, so these are some of the best cases. Let me tell you somewhere in our neighborhood as well. If you look at Bhutan, if you look at Bhutan, Bhutan spends 2.5% of the GDP on healthcare. Sri Lanka, it spends 1.6%. Nepal, it spends 1.1%. All right, चलो नेपाल तो हमसे भी थोड़ा गया अभी तक, कोई बात नहीं. बट दूसरे देश वो गरीब है, लेकिन उनको पता है कि लोगों की लाइफ बचाना are of utmost importance. Saving the life of the people is of utmost importance. So Bhutan, Sri Lanka, they spend even more than what India spent. All right. So low government spending is there, and this you can see from the amount of that, or the amount of money that the government spent. All right, the government spend on healthcare. All right, so New Zealand is 7%. All right, okay, thank you, Prajapati. Then next, in the government like you can say low government spending, we can also see one of the very important fact that UPE in India, UPE stands for out of pocket expenditure. Out of pocket expenditure. That is, if you get ill, how much of the money you will pay from your own side for the healthcare. In India, out of pocket expenditure is 62%. That is, for every 100 rupee treatment that you take in India, generally 62 is borne by the people themselves. The people, they themselves bear the total expenditure. All right, in a country which is having a huge population which is multidimensionally poor, and if you have 62% of the expenses coming out of pocket, then any incident of healthcare in India will ultimately push the people into below poverty line. Getting my point? In India, majority of the people, they are on the border of poverty line. They are slightly above, and one healthcare emergency, it can push the people into below poverty line. And in fact, the thing is this, that there was a newspaper article in Live Mint 4 or 5 weeks back, and that pointed out that in India, the first COVID wave in India, it pushed at least 33 million people into the poverty line. I don't know what will be the statistics after we get over with this second COVID wave. All right, so 33 million people have been pushed into the poverty line by this COVID-19. Why? Because any expense that is occurring, 62% of that expense is going out of your own pocket. You see, this is because of the low government spending. Whenever the government spending increases, the out-of-pocket expenditure decreases. Like for example, if you take example of US, in the United States, only 13.4% of the total expenditure is out-of-pocket expenditure. In UK, it is even less, 10%. 10% is out-of-pocket expenditure. China, which is having a staggering population of 1.4 billion people, China also has a much lower out-of-pocket expenditure. China has 54% of the expenditure coming out of your own pocket. In fact, if you look at the global average, all right, global average, that is 18% of the total expenditure. All right, 18% of the total healthcare expenditure is out of pocket. That means India is more than 3 times the global average. And this is the reason that health shocks in India, they push the people towards poverty. Health shocks in India, they push the people towards poverty. That means that on an average, majority of the countries, they are performing much better than India when it comes to spending of the government in the healthcare infrastructure, because of this global average of just 18% out of pocket expenditure. That means something is really wrong with the government spending in healthcare. All right. That means if you talk about the out of pocket expenditure, it is costing India 2.3% of its GDP. 2.3% of the GDP is spent by the people only in the healthcare, which should otherwise be taken care of by the government. Yes, accept it. All right. Then we are coming to the insurance sector as well. All right. If you talk about the, so is out-of-pocket expenditure concept clear to everyone, that how we are going for spending much and much out of our own pockets? All right. Now, this is not the fact that we have captured out-of-pocket expenditure. It is that out-of-pocket expenditure is on a constant rise. It is on a constant rise. That is, every year you are spending 5.5% more out of pocket in urban areas and 6.9% out of pocket in rural areas. That means out of pocket expenditure is very high at 62%, and every year it is increasing. If a person has spent 100 rupees out of pocket in healthcare last year, so this year he is going to spend 105.5 rupees in the urban area, and he is going to spend 106.9 rupees in rural area on healthcare. That means more and more burden of healthcare is being taken care by the common people themselves. So high out-of-pocket expenditure, and at the same time it is increasing. That means the government is not doing its responsibility. Then another problem that we are facing, all right, another problem after out-of-pocket expenditure, the next problem is that of poor insurance cover. Poor insurance cover in India. All right, the countries like US, the countries which are developed, and the other countries, they have significantly costly, all right, healthcare. But then the people do not face that problem, because in those countries, the insurance has been quite mature. People have been given insurance cover either by the government or by the private players. And this insurance has given the doctors over there, the hospitals over there, with sufficient funding that they can go for augmenting the best of the machines. All right, that's a fairly acceptable question. Why out-of-pocket expenditure is increasing more in the rural areas? The problem is that in the rural areas, people go for treatment only in the advanced stages. People go for treatment only in the advanced stages, which are certainly costly. So they do not access the preventive healthcare, number one. Second, transportation cost is added. Transportation cost is added. Living cost is added. They have to take additional, they have to move to city, stay in the city, or increases the expenditure. Transportation cost increases the expenditure, and besides the treatment, certainly, because they generally go for advanced treatment. They do not have, or they do not access the preventive healthcare. And the reason is that they take the disease for granted. And you know that the thing is this, that in India, the people have very indifferent attitude to even communicable disease. The second COVID wave has already made its intrusion into the rural India, where the people are lackadaisical, people have indifferent attitude, and they are taking it very lightly. We have crumbled urban healthcare. In rural areas, the healthcare is virtually missing. Over there, what will be the scenario? It should give chills to everybody who is acknowledging this news that COVID has made its way into the rural India. Yes, Sanigdha, it truly resembles a complete mismatch. Chaliye? Yes, so Rakshanda has summarized everything completely, that in India, the value of life is very less. Certainly, when you have such a big population, certainly the value of life keeps on decreasing. Chaliye. So let's talk about insurance cover. In insurance cover, if we talk about insurance, 76% of Indians, they are out of insurance cover. They are out of insurance cover. So either they depend upon the government help in healthcare treatment, or they go for out-of-pocket expenditure. So government just extend you only 32%, 38%. All right, government and insurance, they put together help you with just 38% of the total healthcare expenditure. 62% of the healthcare expenditure is borne by the individuals themselves. So there is a very poor, all right, there is a very poor state of insurance in our country. All right, let me tell you about the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. All right, the government extended the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, the insurance umbrella that was extended by the government. It only catered to 13% of the people in rural India, and it only catered to 12% of the people in urban India. So this shows that even the government has not done considerable in expansion of its own, expansion of its own insurance cover. What to say about the private sector? Many people, all right, many people, they remain out of the insurance cover because they believe that the premiums that are charged, they are extraordinarily high. However, they fail to realize that when the health emergencies strike, these premiums, they stand in a very small stature than the expenditure that you bear out of pocket. So people are also having indifferent attitude towards what? Insurance. Getting my point? People are not serious to take insurance. So this is a very big or important problem of the healthcare system in India. All right. Then next, if you look at, India is witnessing the dual disease burden. The next problem is India is witnessing the dual disease burden. The dual disease burden simply means that you are having physical morbidities. Physical morbidities basically means that you have physical disease, and then the expenditure, all right, the trauma and many other simultaneous issues that you face because of the physical morbidities, they also result into mental morbidities. So in India, along with the physical morbidities, there is a simultaneous increase of mental morbidities. People are becoming mentally disturbed because of the illness, or the expenditure that goes into treatment of illness. All right. Then another issue in India. So we spend less on basic necessities like education. Yes, that's right, Neelam. Quite true. All right. Then other segment, if you want to look at the alternate medicine system. All right. The alternate medicine system, that is Ayush. Even this is underdeveloped. Even this is underdeveloped. So all the burden comes over the allopathic treatment. All this burden comes to allopathic treatment. So the alternate medicine system is also underdeveloped. Then another problem, or you can say it is the consequence. All right, not a problem, but it is a consequence of, you can make a subheading as the consequence of the challenges. All right, if we talk about the consequences of the challenges that our healthcare experiences, number one, we have not achieved. All right, we are not achieved the Millennium Development Goals. All right, the Millennium Development Goals. So from 2000 to 2015, certain goals were set up. Those were known as the Millennium Development Goals, and many of the healthcare goals we have been missing. For example, in our country, the maternal mortality rate, it stands at 167 against the Millennium Development Goal of 139. We are not having one, so we should have achieved 139 maternal mortality deaths, but we have just come to 167 because of the challenges that our healthcare is facing. If you look at the child mortality rate in India, all right, so Millennium Development Goals are related. If you look at the child mortality rate, that is the death of the children under 5, the child mortality rate in India stands at 49 against the Millennium Development Goal of 42. So we have not been able to achieve. Then if you look at the consequence of the low government spending, if you look at the consequence of the low government spending in India, then you can cite here the Global Hunger Index. The Global Hunger Index has ranked India 78th out of 118, not countries, 118 developing countries. All right, I'm not just talking about the countries, I'm talking about developing countries. Out of 118 developing countries, India's hunger is reported at 78. Nutrition is part of the government healthcare spending. The government is not taking care of nutrition. So India is ranking 78th in terms of the Global Hunger Index. 15% of our children, they are wasted. 15% of our children are wasted. 39% of our children, they are stunted. They are stunted. Getting my point? And overall, 15% of India's population, total population ka 15% is undernourished. Undernourished. Manisha, wasted वो होता है क्या बोलते हैं? So wasted basically means you have low weight with respect to height. All right, and stunted is low height with respect to age. This shows chronic malnutrition or chronic undernutrition, and wasting show acute undernutrition. Yes, ये challenges तो मैं आपको बता रहा हूं कि these are non-COVID period challenges. In case of COVID, just multiply it 4 times. All right. Our country is lacking behind in almost every factor. Then how it will become a developed country? So who said we are becoming developed? वो तो शिगुफा था. That was a political propaganda that India will become developed on 1st January 2020. We will become developed. I don't know which part of India become developed. All right. Take it in a very constructive criticism. Everything that is portrayed to you is a lie. Okay. So let's go ahead. So, so we are discussing about the consequence. So we did not achieve the Millennium Development Goals. We did not achieve, or yeah, we are underperforming in terms of hunger, resulting into a huge Indian population being wasted. The children are being wasted. The children are being stunted, and there is a rampant prevalence of undernourishment in India. All right. We are witnessing a child mortality rate of 4.8%. That is out of every 100 children. All right. Out of every 100 children, around 5 children will die before attaining the age of 5 years. All right. Before attaining the age of 5 years. देखिए, जो maternal mortality rate है, this is number of deaths, all right, of the mother per 1 lakh live births. This is how you calculate maternal mortality rate. The maternal mortality rate is determined number of deaths of mother per 1 lakh live births. If you come at the child mortality rate is number of deaths of the children under 5. So it can be in terms of percentage, 4.8%. All right. And if you come at infant mortality rate, then number of deaths of infants that is within first year of their birth per 1,000 live births. Per 1,000 live births. So this is MMR, which is calculated per 1 lakh live births, IMR, which is calculated per 1,000 live births. ठीक है आदित्य? All right. So let's go ahead. Another outcome is that in India, the communicable disease burden. All right. So because of the poor healthcare in India, India has a huge communicable disease burden. Communicable disease burden. And this communicable disease burden is around 28%. In India, 28% people, they suffer from the communicable disease, and this is excluding COVID-19 as of now, because we do not have the statistics or the reliable statistics for the same. All right. Then non-communicable disease burden in India. Non-communicable disease burden in India, it is 60%. So out of every 100 people who are ill, 28 are suffering from communicable disease, 60 are suffering from non-communicable disease, and remaining 12, they are suffering from some kind of injuries. So that means that India's poor healthcare, it is having more non-communicable disease, means that there is undernutrition, or you can say this is a chronic problem. This is a chronic problem. A country that has more incidence of non-communicable disease in the ill people, it shows that there is a chronic healthcare problem. Chronic healthcare basically means that for a long period of time, the healthcare quality has been really poor. All right. And to add to this problem, as Priyanka says, to add to this problem, the problem of fake medicines cannot be ignored. Our people are vultures and scavengers. Indians are behaving like vultures and scavengers, grasping upon every possible opportunity to maximize your profits. Black marketing of the cylinders, oxygen cylinders, despite India produces surplus oxygen and even liquid medical oxygen I'm talking about, we are surplus producers. Yet because of this hoarding and black marketing, people are not getting oxygen. Remdesivir, essential medicines in India, as and when the demand shoots, there are fake medicines being circulated. Are you getting my point? So this scavenging attitude also adds to the problem of the poor healthcare in India. So we have that community spirit missing. So we do not have proper government spending. We do not have good technology. To add to this, my dear friends, we also have lack of community spirit that will help us drive ourselves out of this public health emergency. Every now and then you must be coming across these videos where for a 10-kilometer ride, the ambulance is charging as high as 10,000, 35,000, 40,000. Getting my point? So these kind of scavenging attitude, this money-centeredness is killing the community attitude that helped the countries to come out of the shocks. And that's why the problem is more grievous. All right. Then in India, another problem of poor healthcare is neglect of the medical health, and 25% women in India, they have been reported to suffer from one or the other kind of depression, and 10% of the males, they are suffering from one or some other kind of mental illness. So the burden of mental illness is also picking up in case of India. Is it clear to everyone? So these are the challenges that our healthcare structure is facing. Till this point, any doubt? I hope it's clear to everyone. If it is clear, please type yes, so that we can now switch to the health budget. All right, a small discussion on health budget. All right. See, there may be a slight differences. I simply say this thing, that there may be some slight differences in the statistics of different reports. So no one will cut your marks if your statistics vary between a certain range. So need not worry. No, Aditya. No. The women are more susceptible to mental illness because of patriarchal attitude, because of the compulsory domestication and unfavorable sexual division of labor. These results into greater incidence of mental illness. All right, common sense kehta hai. Common sense says that the male should be suffering more. I do understand what you are pointing at, but statistics speak the truth. All right. Yes, post-COVID healthcare, mental trauma is increasing. Anxiety, depression is on a constant increasing, and we don't even have that proper mental health setup. So we are on a viral apocalypse, as the Australian newspaper has brilliantly pointed out. OECD, Priyanka, OECD stands for Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Yes, Indian society has stigma related to mental health. Yes. So now let's have a small discussion about health and budget. All right. So budget 2021, health and budget. And here you are going to see a very significant correlation between health and the poor budgetary allocation. 2021-22 budget. So after COVID-19, in the first wave in 2020, we thought that budget is going to increase significant expenditure for healthcare. So in our budget, the healthcare consists of, all right, in the budget, it consists of health services, it consists of nutrition, it consists of drinking water and sanitation. In our healthcare, in the budget, the healthcare refers to three things put together: health services, hospitals, and the services or the treatment that you get. Second is nutrition. And third is drinking water and sanitation. In face of COVID-19, we expected that the healthcare budget will go up. And yes, the healthcare budget increased by somewhere around 137%. All right. So the healthcare budget, it increased by 137%. That is, for the year 2020, 2021, the budgetary allocation was 94,452 crores. You do not remember the figures. It is just for making you understand the concept. All right. So 2021 and 2022, 2020 and 21 budget, the last year's budget allocated 94,452 crore rupees for healthcare. This year, the budget for 2021-22, it allocated 137% increase, and the budgetary allocation was 2,23,846 crores. But this is not the true indicator of the improvement in the healthcare services. Why? Because out of these three sectors, the drinking water and sanitation, they have got the maximum outlay. They have got the maximum outlay of expenditure. In relative sense, the allocation to health services has decreased. The allocation to the nutrition has decreased. The only thing that drives this healthcare expenditure is drinking water and sanitation. At this point of the time, what was required, my dear friends? At this point of time, the healthcare services were required. The health services were required. We did not require the tremendous investment in drinking water and sanitation. But instead, on the other way around, we did this thing. Why? Because we surpassed the first wave and we took COVID-19 for granted. And thanks to that great vision of the great visionary Santa Claus, that we are into a viral apocalypse today. All right. So let's go ahead now. So if we look at the budgetary allocation, in this budgetary allocation, the majority of the healthcare is driven by drinking water and sanitation instead of the health services, which should be the case. All right. So if you look at this budgetary allocation, all right, 60,030 crores, it has been given to drinking water and sanitation. 2,700 crore rupees is given for nutrition. All right. 4,900 crore rupees has been given by Finance Commission as grants for the healthcare, that consists of 35,000 crore rupees for vaccination. All right, all these are in crores I'm talking about. The thing is this, we have only followed in letter our target of 2.5% spending of the GDP on healthcare. We have just went for achieving this thing in letter, not in spirit. Why? Because the true indicator of healthcare, the health services, they have not been given the required funding. Majority of the funding is driven by the sector which does not support in the contemporary COVID-19 debacle. All right. Getting my point? So 35,000 crore rupees has been given by the Finance Commission for vaccination. But the problem is this, if you even consider this 35,000 crore rupees and you consider the lowest price of the dose, if you consider the lowest prices of the dose, it will only give 65% of Indian population the first dose. What about the second dose, and what about the remaining 35% of Indian population? Nobody is talking about them. Nobody is sincere about them. Yes, Aditya, that's it. All right. So the thing is this, in India, the budgetary allocation has not been truly impacting. All right. It has not been truly impacting the fight for COVID, because this is driven by some other sector that does not have a direct implication upon COVID, that is drinking water and sanitation. And to add to this, the expenditure, or you can say the outlay that was to be given to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The outlay to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, it witnessed a decline of 10%. The government reduced 10% funding that was given to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in 2021 than in 2021-22. So this year budget, the allocation that was given to Ministry of Health and Family Welfare was 71,269 crores. This is this year's budget, 21-22. The last year's budget, it was 78,866 crores. This is 2020-21. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and the government went for declining the share of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. I don't know what rationality was there that they have taken in their mind to go for this particular step, and that too in the middle of the pandemic. All right, nutrition has witnessed, all right, compared to last year, nutrition has witnessed a decrease of 27%. Relatively, health services have also witnessed the decrease in allocation. Only thing that witnessed the increase in allocation is drinking water and sanitation. मरते हुए इंसान को पानी पिला दो, काफी है, ठीक है? All right, let's go ahead now. So this is the analysis of the budgetary allocation for this particular year with respect to health. Is it clear to everyone? All right, this shows the short-sightedness of the government with respect to COVID-19 or the pandemic. All right, so I think that after today's lecture, you will not be having any problem with the healthcare. All right, many people requested in the last lecture that I cover healthcare for one time, so I've done that. Now let's look at the national health policy. All right, a little discussion on national health policy 2017, and then we will discuss the problem of oxygen, production of oxygen. All right, so if you look at the national health policy 2007, I don't know, Manish, Manisha, I don't know what benefit the government is going to extract out of this. I don't know, maybe some benefit that is there which is not visible to us. Maybe there is. I think the wise people are missing in decision making. All right, chaliye, let's go ahead now. So let's talk about the National Health Policy 2017. National Health Policy 2017 goes for universal health coverage. This is the aim. This is the aim of our National Health Policy. The problem is that in our country, the policies, they have very lucrative aims. But when it comes down to achieving, we always fall short of the aims. We go for very, or you can say highly ambitious goals, but execution is very poor. So the aim of the National Health Policy is the universal health coverage, and how it intends to achieve it. Number one, to increase public investment in health to 5% of GDP. Increase investment in health to 5% of the GDP. Second, by coordinating, all right, it aims to coordinate the different non-health departments, to bring a change in health. See the vision in this policy. You want to integrate different non-health departments to bring an impact on the health. I think this is something that even I did not study when I was giving my attempts. Or if I have studied, then I did not appreciate the gravity of this policy in the contemporary times. Are you getting my point? So they want to coordinate the different non-health departments to improve health in India and provide universal health coverage to the people of India. How they will do this? By Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. By Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. By National Nutrition Mission. By National Nutrition Mission. By reduce stress at workplace. ये सब लिखा हुआ है हमारी हेल्थ पॉलिसी में. Along with this, they say yoga at workplace, offices, as well as schools. This is how Our health policy want to give the universal health coverage to the people of India. This is how they are trying to achieve universal health coverage. Then another thing they want to go for, health education. Health education. Getting my point? Health education. Ayush promotion. They want to promote the alternate system of medicine, that is Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, and homeopathy. All right. They want to expand the tertiary services, expand tertiary healthcare facilities. And the tertiary healthcare facilities include specialty and super specialty hospitals. Specialty and super specialty hospitals. Then increased manpower. Increased manpower in medical sector. These are the ways through which the government is planning to, all right, these are the ways through which the government is planning to achieve this aim of universal health coverage. Among these, the only three things that appear laudable at this particular moment, only three things that appear worth appraising in this particular situation is increased investment in health. This is correct. Expansion of tertiary healthcare facilities is important, and increased manpower is important. Though these three things are included in the health policy, but the budget is focusing more upon this segment. For any country's health improvement, you must go for investment in creation of quality services. Number one. You should go for expansion of specialty and super specialty facilities. Number two. You should go for increased manpower. That is correct. And यहाँ पे एक चीज होनी चाहिए थी which is missing. And the thing that is missing is that revamping the primary health centers and the community health centers. They have been ignored. You have created them and you have forgotten them. You have forgotten that there are PHCs and CHCs and they require specialists. You have forgotten that they require quality services. You have just created and abandoned them. And now you are focusing upon the tertiary healthcare facilities. This thing is missing from our policy statement, that you have to revamp the primary healthcare and community healthcare. If they had this oxygen support and all those things, then Delhi and other cities would not have been burdened. They would have shared the burden of this pandemic, but no, they are ill prepared. They are not capable enough to share this burden of this pandemic. And this is the reason that everybody is rushing towards the urban centers, and we are seeing this hue and cry. So how difficult is it for a UPSC aspirant after studying in and out of these hollow schemes have to write in support of these schemes? No, be diplomatic. You are going for becoming a bureaucrat. You should know this skill of tactfully pointing out the weakness and yet not blaming the government. Am I right? So do not government ki chichi leather nahi karni. You don't have to insult the government. You say government is doing a fantastic job, but we are falling short. Am I right? You are doing a brilliant job, but you are falling short, and the shortage is this. Am I right? Be tactful in that. All right, let's go ahead now. So some important targets that may be part of your prelims paper as per the National Health Policy. All right. So target areas, first, they want to increase life expectancy at birth. They want to increase the life expectancy at birth. In this National Health Policy, life expectancy is targeted from 67.5. All right. I would say Hitkanshi both. They are short of wisdom as well as competency. The contemporary bureaucrats who are entering the bureaucracy, they are better performers. They are more pragmatic and they are more aware with the reality. Somewhere, because of the increased competition, the people who are entering the bureaucracy, even the quality of those bureaucrats is going up. And this impact we are going to witness only after the time they enter into this policy formulation stage. Right now, after the change in the pattern, the people who have got selected in 2013-14, very few of them have entered into this policy making stage. Right now, they are all in the policy for implementation stage. But when these young minds who have entered into bureaucracy after such a tough competition, I hope that somewhere they will bring that change. So let's be, you can say, optimistic about it. All right, that's the hope. Huh? Right now, though, we don't have anything apart from hope. So let's just hope. All right. So if we focus upon the targets, the first target is to increase the life expectancy at birth from 67.5 years right now to 70 years by 2025. This is one of the target of the National Health Policy. Then the National Health Policy says that India should reach the total fertility rate of 2.1. India should reach the that's right. Yes, Sanigda, it's true that you should support what is right rather than what is wrong. All right, even if the government policies are wrong, just come out and tell that they are wrong. But the way you should tell, it should show some good aspects of your personality. All right, that we learn in ethics. Need not worry right now. So if we talk about the total fertility rate, the total fertility rate is targeted to be brought to 2.1%, and this is known as replacement fertility rate. This is known as replacement fertility level. If we attain the total fertility rate of 2.1, the population becomes stagnant. The population, it becomes stagnant. All right, there is no further increase in population. All right, so total fertility rate is targeted to be achieved at 2.1. Then the target is reduced child mortality rate to 23 by 2025. CMR to be brought to 23 by 2025. Child mortality rate. Maternal mortality rate, MMR, must be brought from 169. All right, it must be brought from 169 to 100. And this was the target of 2020. So whenever there will be the next review of National Health Policy, or you can say the intermediary review of National Health Policy, will supplement with the targets, what was expected and what we have achieved. All right, so need not worry about that. Then if you talk about next, it targets that the neonatal mortality rate, all right, the young newborn mortality rate, it must be reduced to 16 by 2025. And the prevalence of stillbirth, that is birth of the dead child, stillbirth must be brought to less than 10 by the year 2025. Then another important target is achievement of, all right, this is very important for your prelims point of view, achievement of 90:90:90 strategy, or you can say 90:90:90 global strategy. What is this? With what would you relate the 90:90:90 global strategy? With what you are going to relate it to? Very good. HIV/AIDS. Yes, it is HIV/AIDS. So what is this strategy? It says that of all the people who have HIV, at least 90% of the people should be made aware. They should be made aware of their HIV status. The people that you make aware of the HIV status, you should provide at least 90% of them with antiretroviral therapy. All right, anti hoga ya advance hoga? What is ART? Can anyone tell me, is it advanced or antiretroviral? Antiretroviral therapy. All right, ART. ART is the treatment that prevent progress of HIV into AIDS. An HIV patient can live his life normally if he regularly take the antiretroviral therapy and keep the viral load in check. AIDS is the condition which is known as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, and it develops when the HIV viral load increases to a great extent that your T cells, your B cells, which are the immune cells, they get depleted. And when in your body the viral load shoots up such that your T cells and your B cells cannot fight the infection, your immunity goes down significantly, and you can even die of as simple as influenza. All right, HIV patient never dies of disease but of other super infections when he develops AIDS, when he or she develops AIDS. So the purpose is to prevent progression of this HIV positive status into AIDS, and this has to be targeted in 90% of the people who are given the ART, so that they should have suppressed virus level. This is this 90s to 90s to 90s strategy. All right. So of the total people who have HIV positive, at least 90% of the people should be made aware of their HIV status. Then the people who are made aware of HIV status, out of them 90% should be given the antiretroviral therapy, ART. And those people who are given antiretroviral therapy, at least 90% of them should have suppressed virus level so that they do not progress into AIDS. So achievement of the 90s to 90s to 90 target by 2020 was the aim, or one of the targets of the National Health Policy 2017. Then it aims at, next target is, it aims at elimination of what? It aims at elimination of leprosy. It aims at elimination of leprosy, Kala Azar, that is known as visceral leishmaniasis, and lymphatic filariasis. These three diseases have been targeted to be eliminated. All right. I think that for leprosy, the target year was 2019. For Kala Azar, it was 2018. And for lymphatic filariasis, it was 2018. All right. So we'll have to wait for the review of this policy to see whether we have achieved them or not. All right. Okay. So elimination of leprosy, Kala Azar, and lymphatic filariasis were targeted under this policy. Then next, maintain cure rate of more than 85% for the people who are newly diagnosed with tuberculosis. Those people who are diagnosed with TB, at least 85% of them should be cured using the DOT program. All right, the government efforts against the tuberculosis. Then another aim that is there is to reduce prevalence of blindness. Reduce the prevalence of blindness to less than, yes, dots. All right, not dots, sorry, dots. Yes, to reduce the prevalence of blindness to less than 0.25 per 1,000 people by 2025. This is yet another target. And then reducing, the next target is reducing premature mortality. Reducing premature mortality, that is cardiovascular deaths. All right, reducing. All right, Kala Azar was 2017. Okay, thank you. So reducing premature mortality by 25% by 2025. So those targets that are focusing year more than 2020s, please learn them at least. All right, for your prelims point of view. All right, this is the National Health Policy. This is National Health Policy, everyone. Just a minute. See, DOTS program hai, this DOTS is a cost-effective TB strategy of World Health Organization. All right. So DOTS is a World Health Organization recommended cost-effective TB treatment strategy. All right, that is DOTS. That is DOTS. And one more thing I would like to tell you, let me just confirm. Yes. Directly observed treatment short course. All right. The full form of DOTS is directly observed treatment short course. All right. It's a treatment of somewhere like 18 months, if I'm not wrong. All right. It's around 18 months. Okay. So eradication, there are two things. Pallavi, but I know somebody who is recommended a program of 18 months for complete cure of TB. If DOTS is of 6 months, I don't know, somebody was recommended 18 months by the government doctor. Maybe the progress of the disease, multiple things. Or maybe it's 6 months for the pulmonary TB and 18 months maybe for extra pulmonary. Maybe you are in a better state. Okay. MTR. Microbial resistant. Multi-drug, MD. Multi-drug resistant TB. Okay. Chaliye. So let's now discuss a small concept. Like, for example, here you have seen the word elimination. And then there is a word called eradication. If you talk about eradication, eradication means that you have brought 0 new cases worldwide. When you eradicate a disease, that means there are 0 new cases worldwide. That is, now no longer you need any control measure for the disease. So when 0 new cases are reported of the disease worldwide, then the disease is said to be eradicated. If we talk about elimination, elimination refers to very low prevalence of the disease, very low prevalence of the new disease, new cases of the disease in a geographical area, which can be less than one case per 10 lakh. 1 case per 1 lakh. So when there is a very low prevalence, then this disease is said to be eliminated. So this is the difference between elimination and eradication. All right. In elimination, you need the control measures to prevent the transmission of the disease so that it remain in a very low level, and ultimately elimination ke baad you can aim at eradication. So this is the difference between elimination and eradication. It is eliminated. Shrans, it is eliminated. All right. Okay. So let's now talk about the liquid medical oxygen crisis in India. Is the healthcare concept clear to everyone? All right. So now we are going to talk about the liquid medical oxygen crisis in India. Was it a true crisis or was it a failure? So let's have it. Let's have a look at it. Just a minute, hold on. See, when a newborn child die within first 28 days, all right, when a child dies either at the time of birth or if the child dies on the 27th day, before 28 days of childbirth, if a child dies, then that death is recorded as, that death is recorded as neonatal mortality rate. So neonatal mortality rate is the death of a newborn child. All right, death of a newborn child within first 28 days. That is basically known as neonatal mortality rate. And this neonatal mortality rate is calculated as number of deaths between 0 to 27 days upon total number of live births in 2000. All right. This is how the neonatal mortality rate is calculated. All right. Just, is it clear? The neonatal mortality rate. Chaliye. Now, liquid medical oxygen is liquid oxygen that is used in the medical procedures. The application of liquid medical oxygen can be in anesthesia. All right. For anesthetic techniques, you need liquid oxygen. You need liquid oxygen for management of tissue oxygen tension. That is to provide adequate oxygen to the tissues such that they do not come under oxygen stress. And third, you need oxygen support for cardiovascular stability. Cardiovascular stability. These are the prominent areas where the liquid oxygen, yes, Aditya, it can be. It can be. Eradication, elimination can be within region also. All right, regional. It can be global as well. Okay. So liquid oxygen is very essential because it is used in widely used in anesthesia. It is used in tissue oxygen tension management and cardiovascular stability. See, many people in COVID-19, if they get the timely oxygen support, they do not then need the intrusive management, or you can say they do not need the intrusive treatment in the form of, all right, in the form of ventilators or some other, you can say ventilators or some other intrusive BiPAP machine, and all these kind of machines are not required if in COVID-19 the patients get the adequate oxygen supply timely, because oxygen supply in the initial stage of the disease, when you show moderate symptoms, it helps in cardiovascular stability and tissue regeneration. All right. So tissue regeneration and cardiovascular stability are directly related with the prevention of progression or deterioration of COVID-19. And that is why the moderate cases, they convert into severe in absence of oxygen. This liquid oxygen is a very critical, essential part of the treatment, and therefore the World Health Organization has included it under the list of essential medicines. Liquid medical oxygen is under the list of essential medicines. If you talk about the list of essential medicines, LEM, they are given in India under the Drug Price Control Order. In India, it is mentioned under the Drug Price Control Order of 2013. So India has prepared a national list of essential medicines, and in this list, national list of essential medicines, you can find liquid oxygen that India has put up as one of the essential medicines as recommended by World Health Organization. If we talk about the production of liquid oxygen in India, all right, if we talk about the production of liquid oxygen in India, India produces on an average 7,100 metric tons of liquid oxygen on a daily basis in India. All right, India produces daily 7,100 metric ton of liquid oxygen that is to be used both in medical as well as industrial purpose. All right, so industrial as well as medical needs को fulfill करने के लिए we are producing 7,100 metric tons of liquid oxygen in India. Now, this production has been upscaled recently. It has been upscaled recently to National List of Essential Medicines. NLM stands for National List of Essential Medicines. All right. So this production in India has recently been increased to 8,922 metric tons. And out of this 8,922 metric tons, our daily requirement in the second COVID wave is that of 7,017 metric tons. This is the daily requirement right now. That means that India is self-sufficient in terms of oxygen, liquid oxygen production. Then the problem is, if we are self-sufficient, then what is the reason? Why present crisis? Why present crisis? So there are certain reasons for the present crisis. The first is that you can simply call them as logistics related issues. Logistics related issues. The production of liquid oxygen in India, all right, the production of liquid oxygen in India, it is located in eastern part of the country. It is located in eastern India, whereas the demand has come from northern, northwestern, central and southern part of country and southern part. So taking liquid oxygen from the production in East India to these places, it results into logistic problem. It results into logistics problem. Right? You have to take it by road or by rail. All right, you have to take it by road or you have to take it by rail. You cannot uplift the liquid oxygen because, you know, as you go in the air, there are incidents where the cabin pressure, it comes down. And because of that reason, this may result into, it is a potential hazard. So generally, the liquid oxygen is not airlifted. It is to be transported by road and rail and to reach the different parts of the country from eastern India. It can take as many as 6 to 7 days turnaround time. The whole time or the transport time is 6 to 7 days. So there are long transportation holes. Long transportation halls, HAULS, halls. Then not only this, the interstate movement is a cumbersome activity. The tankers are stopped in different states for checking. So that is also one of the problems. So states hold the tankers on the way. Now, another logistic problem. See, Sanigdha, the reason is that if we eliminate this COVID-19 situation, then liquid oxygen or oxygen is greatly used in iron and steel industries. And because our iron and steel industries, they are highly located in the eastern part, therefore the liquid oxygen production is more dominated in the eastern part of the country. All right, this is one of the very potential explanation that why do we have concentration of liquid oxygen production in eastern part of the India? Because liquid oxygen is greatly used by iron and steel industries which are located in the eastern part. Clear? All right, so see, medical consumption is not that much in normal circumstances as much as it is the industrial use. Okay, so the next logistics issue is related to tankers. In India, there are 1,224 liquid medical oxygen tankers, and at one point of time, only 200 are in transit. बाकी सब खाली करके वापस आ रहे होते हैं. 200 are in transit. That means only 200 tankers at one time ply on road for transfer or carrying of liquid medical oxygen. All right, medical liquid oxygen. And these 200, so these 1,224 liquid medical oxygen tankers can at times carry 16,732 metric tons. But at one point of time, only 200 tankers are in play. That is, at one point of time, India can transport only 400 to 4,000 metric tons, whereas today the requirement is 7,017 metric tons. So the transport issue is coming very significantly. The companies, those who produce the liquid oxygen, or the transportation companies, they are not purchasing the tankers. They are not purchasing the tankers, or you can call them as cryogenic tankers. Can you tell me why they are not purchasing? Because one cryogenic tanker costs 50 lakh rupee. And after the second wave is over, those investment will turn out to be lost for them. So why would they go for purchasing the tankers? So we have to just bear with these 200 extra tankers. Why government is not purchasing them? Maybe they are not aware. So right now we are getting a help from different countries. All right, so the government also do not want to into the loss making adventure. I don't know why the government is not purchasing. All right, the government is instead borrowing it. The PM does not care. All right, maybe he cares, but for whom that matters. All right. Okay, so that's why the tankers are also not bought, because after the second COVID wave is over, then these tankers will be a kind of you can say a wasteful investment. Then the next problem is the leakages. All right, leakages, wastage, and irrational use. Wastage and irrational use of medical oxygen. And lastly, it is hoarding and black marketing. Hoarding and black marketing. See, I would like to tell you that many things that the government should do, but the government is not doing. I don't know what's the rationality behind that. Am I right? They might have their own reasons. So maybe let them be accountable in next general elections if we make them accountable. All right. Yes, right now the situation is that we are relying upon the sympathy of many other countries. You see, many countries sent oxygen concentrators, and they are right now lying with the customs. This is sorry state of affairs. Countries did their best. They sent the medical aid, and the medical aid is with the customs. तो जब कस्टम क्लियर होगा उसके बाद मिल जाएगी, तब तक चलेगा. कोविड वेव को एक्सपेंड भी तो करना है, लंबा खींचना है ताकि वो कहीं काम आ जाए. All right, take it in a sarcastic manner. All right. Yes, Manisha, you can say that. Then shouldn't India procure oxygen tankers? Yeah, we are procuring. We should procuring, when I see government activities takes a lot of time. All right, so gradually it will happen. All right. Okay. Chaliye. So what the government has done, to mitigate this oxygen crisis, they have started oxygen express trains चला दी. All right, oxygen express नाम की trains चला दी हैं. Yes, Janashi, accepted that short-lived memory, everyone will forget. Don't worry. Only those people will remember, those who have lost some near and dear ones. So let's hope for the best that we keep this crisis in our mind next time we are voting. चाहे वो state government के लिए vote कर रहे हो, चाहे वो national government के लिए vote कर रहे हो. We must hold everyone accountable for the sufferings that we are going on right now. So the government started the oxygen express, that the government started transporting oxygen by rail. We have brought oxygen under the Disaster Management Act 2005, oxygen transport under the Disaster Management Act 2005, and issued an order on this under this act that the interstate movement of oxygen must be free without any kind of interruption. The government started the closed plants. For example, in Tamil Nadu, there was a Sterlite plant that has been initiated after 4 months of production of oxygen. All right, we have incorporated the Air India, or you can say Air Force, for transfer of empty tankers for refueling. ऑलराइट, एम्प्टी टैंकर्स के रिफ्यूलिंग के लिए हमने एयर इंडिया का एयर फोर्स का यूज करना स्टार्ट कर दिया है, so that the whole time or the turnaround time can be reduced. And we have also the CSIR, all right, Center for Scientific and Industrial Research, National Chemical Laboratory of India, CSIR, NCL. It has created a version of domestic oxygen concentrator. We have created domestic oxygen concentrator, and the global aid that we are receiving in the form of oxygen concentrators, it is worth noting. It is worth noting. Government has decided to create 551 oxygen production plant under PM CARES. चलिए लिख लीजिए भी बिल्कुल. All right, कहीं तो काम आएगा PM CARES. Is it clear to everyone? All right, the crisis and government response. The crisis and government response is clear to one and all. Perfect. Now, the question is, how is liquid medical oxygen is produced? Or simply, how is liquid oxygen is produced? How it is produced? Well, it is produced by a technique called fractional distillation. Fractional distillation method in air separating units. In air separating units, this is one of the methods for production of liquid oxygen. And then we go for swing adsorption technique. For enhancing oxygen concentration in ambient air. All right, liquid oxygen is produced. The medical grade liquid oxygen is produced by a fractional distillation method in the air separating units, and normally oxygen concentration in the air is increased by swing adsorption technique. So I'll explain both these techniques to you. If you look at the fractional distillation technique, what you do, you have a column. All right, you have a column like this. In this column, there are different levels. All right, these are outlets. You collect the thing here. So what you do is, in fractional distillation, you cool down the air to minus 181 degrees centigrade. When you cool down the air to minus 181 degrees centigrade, oxygen and other gases, they are liquefied. They are liquefied. All right. So you are cooling it to minus 181 degrees Celsius. The boiling point of nitrogen is minus 196 degrees Celsius. So when you cool down the air to minus 181 degrees Celsius, the nitrogen is still in gaseous form. So you suck out from this chamber, you suck out nitrogen, such that only thing that lies in this chamber is the liquid gases that majorly consist of oxygen. Then you gradually increase the temperature, and then oxygen will start evaporating, and as it start increase evaporating, it gets collected at one of the level and it is separated. So oxygen is separated out. Oxygen is separated out. But because argon has minus 186 degrees Celsius as its boiling point, so the mixture that you will get out of the fractional distillation will be like 90% oxygen, liquid oxygen, and 10% may be there as liquid argon. So what you do is, You go for, again, low pressure distillation. Now you go for low pressure distillation again to separate liquid oxygen from argon. So the technique that you're using is fractional distillation. You cool down the atmospheric air to minus 181 degrees centigrade, where oxygen and some partial gases also cool down. You remove nitrogen because nitrogen is still in gaseous form, because the boiling point of nitrogen is minus 196 degrees centigrade. Then what you do is you take that mixture. In that mixture, almost 90% is oxygen and 10% is argon. Then you pass it through low pressure distillation again, and you get 100% liquid oxygen, which is medical grade liquid oxygen. So this is one of the techniques to produce the liquid oxygen for medical purpose in India. Is this technique clear to everyone? Is this technique clear? Chaliye. So let's look at the second technique now. The second technique is nothing but it is for. नहीं, absolute zero नहीं. Absolute zero तो possible ही नहीं है, Dhruv. Absolute zero, it is kept less than 180 degrees centigrade. Sorry, minus 180 degrees centigrade. Liquid oxygen is maintained in its liquid form at minus 180 degrees centigrade. You don't have to go to absolute zero. Absolute zero is impossible. All right, there is something known as cosmic microwave background radiation. It will always keep the temperature of 2 Kelvin. In the universe where there is not even slightest of the light or energy present, the temperature cannot go below 2 Kelvin. Why? Because of the cosmic microwave background radiation. Absolute zero means absolute zero means 0 Kelvin. That's minus 273.15 degrees centigrade. It is theoretically possible, but not practically. All right, Dhruv. चलिए, second technique देखते हैं oxygen concentration की. All right, so oxygen concentration, the second technique. The second technique of oxygen concentration. Yes, Manisha. So in that cylinder, you have liquid oxygen. You fill in liquid oxygen. Then if they come out in open, then because of the pressure of the cylinder, inside the cylinder, the gas is still liquid, but as it comes out in the form of gaseous. See the oxygen mask that one put on the face, and that liquid is converted into, because of decompression, the liquid is converted into gas, and you inhale what is basically oxygen gas, pure form of oxygen gas. Now this swift pressure swing adsorption technique, a swing adsorption technique, or it is also known as pressure swing adsorption technique. This technique increases oxygen concentration in ambient air. It increases oxygen concentration in air. So what you do is you make use of the physical phenomena called as adsorption. Adsorption का मतलब क्या होता है? Suppose करो you have a surface like this, and there are gas molecules around like this, such that when you increase the pressure, these gas molecules go and settle down on this particular substance, and then you remove this substance. So these particles are removed. Are you getting my point? So think about this way. All right, let me help you to visualize this pressure swing adsorption technique. In this circle, the small circles, they represent oxygen. These represent, the rectangles represent nitrogen. All right, this is the mixture of atmospheric air. This is the mixture of air. Now you introduce a substance. You introduce a substance with a structure like this. The surface of that substance has structure like this. This is known as zeolite. Zeolite. All right, you introduce a substance known as zeolite into this chamber. These nitrogen particles, they will go and bind with these areas. And then you remove this zeolite from this such that the resultant will be pure oxygen and maybe very little nitrogen. All right, this is zeolite, the substance. Zeolite is nothing but, it is a crystalline solid that is made up of silicon, aluminum, and their oxygen. All right, oxides of silicon and aluminum is known as zeolite. Okay, so think about this way, that I have a machine. All right, this is the machine जहां से हवा अंदर आती है. यहाँ पे मैंने एक sheet रखी हुई है which is made up of zeolite. All right, and this side I am pushing the air out in the form of oxygen mask. All right, the person is laughing because he's getting pure oxygen. So air is going out here, nitrogen is separated out by zeolite in this particular chamber, and pure oxygen is coming through the tube to this gentleman. This is what is known as pressure swing technique. So you increase the pressure, by increasing the pressure, you make the nitrogen go and bind to the zeolite. You remove the zeolite, or nitrogen will not then go out, only the pure oxygen will go out. Swati, I'm not sure about charge, but I do remember that zeolite have certain structure that make nitrogen bind to those places. All right, Swati. So I think that it is more of the surface, all right, the nature of the surface that make nitrogen bind to zeolite. Oxygen will remain as it is. Oxygen do not bind to zeolite. It is nitrogen that bound to zeolite, and then you remove the zeolite and concentrated air or concentrated oxygen goes to the patient. And instead of zeolite, you can have some selectively permeable membrane that only allow oxygen to pass through. Selectively permeable membrane that allow only the oxygen to pass through. So you gush the air through that selectively permeable membrane, and only oxygen will pass through and the patient will get pure oxygen. Yes, there is adsorbent tendency of the zeolite particles, zeolite surface. Yes, oxygen will be in the gaseous form. All right, here it is purely in the gaseous form. Gaseous form. ये जो आजकल portable oxygen concentrators आ रहे हैं ना, the portable oxygen concentrators, these are mostly working on this principle. All right, everyone, is this concept clear? Liquid medical oxygen, what the government is doing, why the crisis is there, how this oxygen or better quality air is being provided to the patient. Chaliye, so I'll close the session for today here. Next Saturday, we are going to discuss that Maratha reservation. I might introduce you to OBCs, what are other backward classes. We can also discuss about Indra Sahni case. All right, so now role of Supreme Court. See, Supreme Court is right now acting not in overreaction, but it is reaction. So activism. Right now, Supreme Court is showing activism. All right, right now, Supreme Court is showing activism and not overreach. When Supreme Court is directing the center to meet the adequate needs of the people. When center is asked, there is oxygen shortage. Center says there is no oxygen shortage. Okay, we agree there is no oxygen shortage, but until and unless the oxygen is present where it is required, it is as good as shortage. So the Supreme Court is reprimanding the government that what you are doing for the effective distribution of the oxygen. Getting my point? So this is judicial activism and not overreach, because the executive is not doing its duty properly. Getting my point? Samir, sociology is supposed to start by 15th of May, but final date is still yet to be decided because of the second COVID wave. We might go for deferring it for 1 week or maximum 10 days, but we are going to start by the end of this month. No, don't worry. So government is converting nitrogen plant to oxygen plant. What is meant by that? The machinery will remain same, but now instead of nitrogen, yeah, more and same. Liquid nitrogen is produced by cooling the gas to minus 196 degrees Celsius. Then what you do, you increase the temperature such that quickly nitrogen will move up. Then you cool down again. So nitrogen will then precipitate in the form of liquid. Nitrogen ko separate kar do. So fractional distillation is used in nitrogen concentration. That same plant can be used for oxygen concentration also. All right, Manisha. 2 to 4. Ria, it is going to be 2 to 4. Okay, everyone. So I'll close the session here for today. We'll discuss all other concepts later. Acha, you want me to go to Champak Raj, Dorai Rajan, Champakan, Dorai Rajan. Chalo, theek hai, karte hain. All right. So that's all for today's class. See you next week at 12 p.m. Be protected, be careful. And let's hope that next week when we'll be meeting, this COVID-19 peak would have been surpassed. All right. Take care. Bye. Signing off.